an easy beginner flow. Let's begin by finding a comfortable and dignified seated posture. Take a moment to find that posture communicating a sense of presence and self-worth. Your eyes can be opened or closed. Sit in dignity, adopting a dignified presence. This dignified presence is not connected to any need to be anything more than you are right now. As you find that dignified seated posture, bring attention to the in-breath and out-breath. As you connect to the in and the out-breath, allow any thought that arises to be seen simply as a learned quality or habit of distraction, a way to ward off the plain, unexceptional quality of the present moment. We're learning to relax with what is. By relaxing with our breath, we may notice the internal tension that often expresses itself as a wish to have a different moment other than what we're having now. And if this tension arises, see it as no more than a habit of distraction, a habit as regular as brushing your teeth or tying your shoes. So, rather than struggling against it, we can allow it to be part of our experience. And if we're caught in a stream of thoughts, we will inevitably and eventually snap back to the present moment. This is the inherent wakefulness of our mind. Rather than seeing this as training our mind to be somehow better than it naturally is, know it as relaxing back into the way we naturally are. If your eyes are closed, begin to blink them open, and we'll open into our yin practice with butterfly. So let's begin by finding our feet generously distanced from the pelvis, creating a diamond shape with the legs. Then, with as long a spine as we can create, let's wiggle our feet and heels back toward our hips. Many of us will eventually find a tug and a pull in the inner line of the thighs. If you find this difficult to sustain, either because of hip pain or spine discomfort, please come onto your back and take a similar shape with the spine resting on the floor and the heels close to the body. Now, if it's helpful, begin to slowly send your torso forward. Find the edge sensation that you can comfortably stay with for several breaths. This will likely not be your total edge, but somewhere slightly back. As you settle in, shift your attention from your breathing to the sensation you feel in the body. Try to become very familiar and friendly with the sensation in your body. Start where you feel the sensation most strongly. In the case of butterfly, that will often be inside the hips. But you may feel this more prominently in your spine. That's perfectly fine. The goal is to feel enough that you can bring your attention to that sensation. Again, if you become distracted or get carried off, know that your mind's natural wakefulness will return you to the present moment. When that happens, re-anchor your attention on the sensations in your body. We're engaging in the dignified discipline of coming back to the body over and over again. That's about 3 minutes. On your next in-breath, slowly lift out of the pose by lifting the torso away from the legs or drawing your knees together if you're on your back. And without moving, pause at the top. Feel the quality of the body and mind as you release. And now, take whatever natural organic movement comes to mind to release this pose, feeling free to shift and wiggle. For our next pose, half butterfly, sit on a blanket if it makes forward bends more available. Beginning with our legs stretched out in front of us, we'll draw our left leg in, the sole coming towards the right inner thigh. If this is too much for us, we can lower the left foot on the right inner thigh or support the left knee with a blanket or bolster. We'll bring our attention to the space behind our right leg. Beginning with a lengthened spine, let's slowly begin to bring ourselves into a forward bend over the right leg. As we shift, we may begin to feel tension inside the belly of the hamstring muscle. When we find that sustainable edge of sensation, we soften the forward momentum and allow ourselves to round the spine comfortably. If you find too much tension in the hamstring, to relax into the posture, bend the knee or rest back on the hands. Again, continue to anchor into the sensation in the hamstring. You are anchoring into the sensation in the back of the leg. And once again, bring your attention to where you feel this pose most strongly in your body. At any point in your practice, you might begin to experience not just thoughts, but also emotions. Anger, pleasure, sadness, or fear. Rather than seeing these things as challenges or problems that must be attended to, see them as another form of sensation in your body. You can give your attention to them without treating them as anything special or needing adjustment or repair. Just like the sensation in your hamstring, they're present for you. That's about 3 minutes. Please come out of the pose and pause with your spine again elongated. Allow yourself to experience the space of the body and the mind in the time after the holding. Now, release your bent leg forward. Feel free to make any adjustments, wiggle or stretch, and then change sides. Be prepared to be astonished by the differences between the two sides. Don't treat the second side like it needs to be a mirror of the first. Work with what is genuine and authentic for you right now. When ready, you can lean the pelvis forward on this side. You might be able to go further if you're comfortable with it. Don't limit yourself by your memory of the previous side. Instead, connect to the possibilities and opportunities on this side of your body. Again, place your attention on the sensation in your body. And if that sensation includes feelings and emotions, try to expand your relaxation to include those as well. That's about 3 minutes. Exit the pose, letting your spine progressively elongate, and then pausing at the top to feel the space of the body and mind as you come out of the posture. Release the posture entirely and feel free to stretch the body. We'll come into seated straddle, or what we sometimes call dragonfly or straddle fold, for our final fold. Widen the legs out to a comfortable distance. If you find that there's pinching or tension inside the hips, begin by elevating your hips and start with a narrower split. You can progressively widen the split as is comfortable for you. We might anchor the hands behind us or inside our legs, feeling enough here, perhaps even bending the knees. For others of us, we begin to walk forward, taking advantage of the progressive flexibility we've built in the half butterfly pose. We might feel this most intensely in the hamstrings or the back. Either placement of sensation is correct. Find your edge and then settle in, connecting attention to sensation. As we go further into our practice, it's not uncommon that we might begin to feel a sense of soreness or overstretch in some regions of our body. Rather than trying to endure this, we can take the opportunity to gently contract the muscles in the areas that feel a bit overstretched, tender, or vulnerable. Doing this not as a knee-jerk reaction, but as an intentional, progressive response. We might release that contraction, or we might sustain it so that we feel more stable and comfortable in the pose. That's about 3 minutes. On your next in-breath, slowly walk back up to vertical if you folded. Again, pause at the top and notice the quality of sensation out of the pose. Feel free to wiggle and release the pose. You might even lean back on your hands and allow the knees to fall side to side in windshield wipers. From here, we'll focus on the low back after forward bending. Please join me on your abdomen with a folded up blanket or 2 blocks readily available. Coming down to your belly, begin with your forehead, relaxing on your forearms. Take a moment to sense into your back. It is common in yin for the back to feel vulnerable and to work with sensations of fear or doubt. Rather than responding to those by tightening or turning away from that sensation, allow yourself to listen more closely to it. Notice how the sensations we tie to vulnerability often shift and change simply by choosing not to react. Now join me in Sphinx. Begin by shifting your elbows under your shoulders. If this is too much for your lower back, consider widening your legs or walking your elbows forward to reduce the stretch and lift on your spine. If you're working with additional sensitivities in the spine, you can also place a blanket underneath the abdomen. This will help increase the spine's stability and help consciously activate the muscles of the abdomen, which will provide further stabilization and protection for the back. If your back is exceptionally supple, you could rest your forearms on your blanket or your blocks to lift higher without adding strain to the shoulders or arms. Allow your head and neck to be in any position that feels comfortable. Our yin back bends are often an opportunity to explore a part of our body that we often fear will become injured or damaged by our practice. As we have in previous postures, try to allow the tender or vulnerable space to be there. If fear or doubt arises, rather than taking immediate action, see if you can stay connected to the quality of your back while not ignoring pain or sharp sensations in the lower spine. I'll invite you to stay here if you have enough sensation in the posture. Or, if you'd like to add a more sustainable sensation, please begin to press into your hands, lifting your torso further away from the floor into seal pose. Feel free to experiment with pressing the arms straight, deciding that you've made a wrong decision, and returning to your forearms. One of the potential lessons in seal pose is how much we try to outlast the discomfort of an experience. If we find ourselves gritting our teeth literally or metaphorically in this posture, then allow yourselves to relax back into a more sustainable shape, seeing this not as giving up, but as working with your body as it is, without judgment and condemnation. That's been about 3 minutes. If you've shifted to seal pose, please return to Sphinx. And now, from your Sphinx, begin to flare your elbows and slowly lower down to earth. Abide here for a few breaths with the quality in the low back. If it feels sensitive or strained, rather than moving immediately to try and fix or address it, stay curious and observe how the quality of the sensation shifts and evolves. When the sensation has almost totally diminished, mindfully press yourself back into child's pose if that shape is available. If child's pose is uncomfortable because of the spine or the knees, you can roll onto your side and curl into a fetal position or onto your back and draw your knees into your chest. Now let's slowly transition back to seated for the last portion of our practice. We'll begin with half shoelace. If you usually sit on a blanket to help elevate your pelvis, feel free to do so. Let's begin by straightening our right leg and bringing our left heel towards our left buttock. From here, transition your left foot to the outside of your right leg. See if the knee and hip are responding with a stretch. If you have more flexibility to offer to the posture, begin to draw your left heel towards your right hip. If your right hamstring is tight or tense, use a blanket underneath the knee to support it. You can add a forward fold to stretch the hip further. If you find the shape wholly disagreeable, take half butterfly pose from early in the practice, or come onto your back and take your left ankle over your right thigh in figure 4 pose. In this series of postures, we're intentionally focusing on the hip aspect of our practice. As much as you can, try to architect the shape of your body so that you feel a stretch or pull from the buttock across the outside of the leg. In our yin practice, sensation leads the way. So, rather than getting hung up on a particular shape, use shape to find a sustainable and noticeable sensation somewhere in your body. And as possible, try to allow everywhere else in your body to relax. That's about 3 minutes. If you're in figure 4, allow your feet to return to the mat slowly and then come up to seated. And if you're seated, bring your torso away from your thigh. Take a moment out of the pose and pause. Feel free to stretch and wiggle. The tendency when we have a posture that we do on two sides is to try to mirror the first side of the posture, but try to let go of the memory of the first side as you shift into the second side of this pose. That might mean if you were on your back for the first side, you come up and try the pose seated, or if you were seated, give yourself permission to come onto your back. Now let's take the next side of half shoelace. Physically, we are often not symmetrical. Bones and muscles can be of different densities and shapes, requiring us to be responsive to what is, rather than forcing ourselves to adopt a mirror image of the first side. So take your time to settle, find sensation, and anchor your attention into the sensation in your body. Remember that whenever you become caught up in thoughts of the past, future, or daydreaming, your mind's wakefulness will eventually reassert itself. When that happens, re-anchor your attention. Let your feet slowly descend to the floor if you're on your spine. And if you're seated, allow your spine to uncurl away from your leg. Pause. Feel the quality of the body out of the pose. Come onto your back for happy baby, sometimes called stirrup pose. Draw your knees into your chest, feeling free to remain here, experiencing the gentle stretch on the spine. Or, to draw the posture into the hips, separate your thighs, pulling your knees towards the armpits. Staying here, or begin to lift the feet toward the ceiling, taking a grip of the ankles or feet. This posture can sometimes be challenging because we're caught in the push-pull. Our hips want to shoot the feet towards the sky, and our arms act as a brace, holding them in place. This push-pull is perfectly fine, but if you are getting over agitated or frustrated by the challenge, please bring the body back to a sustainable point of sensation. As we move towards the closing part of our practice, we might find that we want to release our mental attention and allow the mind to wander. This is perfectly fine. If you can, keep anchoring into your body and its sensations. That's about 3 minutes. Slowly allow your feet to descend back towards the floor and pause. Our last pose is a reclining twist. With your feet flat on the floor, drop your knees to the right. Adapt the pose as you would like, allowing your arms to spread out to the side, turning your head to the left, or lifting your top leg away from the bottom leg to reduce sensation. That's about 3 minutes. Please return to the center, pause, and then move on to the second side. That's about 3 minutes. Finally, return to the center and shift your body into a restful posture. We often talk about letting go of the tyranny of Shavasana. Rest on your side, back, or abdomen, or even sit up and adopt a dignified seated posture. Without moving, bring your attention to the body. Experience the body's physical movements as you inhale and exhale. Deepen your inhale and lengthen your exhale. Wiggle your fingers and toes to generate the first beginnings of physical wakefulness. Allow that wakefulness to slowly and gradually expand to the whole body. And then, in your own time, make the pilgrimage back to your dignified seated posture that opened your practice. As you arrive in your dignified seat, take a moment to settle into the presence of nowness, the quality of your inner and outer experience without drawing anything towards you or pushing anything away. If your eyes are closed, slowly open them.